Hi, I'm Steve Mulberry.
And I'm Kelly Bigley.
Hey, we are here to discuss and talk about our first day at the Esri DevSummit. It's that time of year again. Esri holds their annual developer summit. Typically, it's out at Palm Springs. This is the second time we've missed it because of the whole COVID crisis there. And but we thought Kelly and I should get together and kind of review our findings and what we thought of the first day of Dev Summit. And so, as typical, the Dev Summit starts off with a plenary where Jack and others talk about what they're going on, what they're doing, and how they're advancing the technology. And if you haven't registered yet, or if you still want to check out some of the sessions, you can go to the URL there. You can still register. And what's important about that is, even if you don't have time to sit through some of the sessions today, tomorrow, and Thursday, you can review these sessions at any time, which is kind of neat about this online experience, this virtual experience, because more people can join, right? We have opportunity to view these sessions for months on end, and you can view these at your leisure. So let's get started, kind of talking about what we've reviewed there. So we got.
I'm used to having to wear sunglasses. I'm missing some Palm Springs.
Some Palm Springs, yeah, yes, nice and sunny. We can see there the background there, nice sunny in Southern California there, but the plenary kicked off nicely. Also, we missed doing Jack's favorite thing where he has everybody stand up, turn around, and meet and greet, which is kind of neat to share some experiences there. But a great plenary. I think the key behind the plenary for today, and they're going to have a plenary today, tomorrow, and Thursday, sort of spread it out, is that it was all focused on this ArcGIS platform. Right, this new thing that's been released, the PaaS, Platform as a Service. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I thought they did a really nice job showcasing that the existing services, ArcGIS Online, Pro, and Enterprise, are already draped on top of Platform. And what they've actually done is made the platform available without using those three mechanisms. But those three mechanisms are still the platform. So I thought that was a really interesting distinction.
Right. They showed lots of examples of how to build these apps using this platform, sort of breaking it down into different categories. Like there are builders out there that are either low code or no code, like Web App Builder, Experience Builder, App Studio, those things, and then the APIs that extend it to the developers. I mean, it is a developer summit, so we got to hit all the key elements there, talking about those options. But what was neat too is they're introducing this thing called design system.
Right? Yeah. And we'll talk about the design system in a little bit.
That was
they had
cool.
some really good sessions on it later in the day. But yeah, during the plenary, they were able to showcase all sorts of the sexy stuff that they typically showcase. Some cool new mapping functionality, smart mapping features, and new charting and animation features that are really cool, some new dashboarding. It's cool with the dashboard because they announced that you can do arcade expressions to return modified data sets, which is mind-blowing, and all sorts of cool things that we're going to be able to do with that.
Yeah, I thought that was cool because you don't have to have everything into one feature service or one feature layer. Now you can have multiple things out there and combine them all together in this nice expression and use that expression then to drive how you render the information. Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool.
Super cool. And of course the dog and pony continues with really cool 3D demonstrations, see ground 3D and subsurface 3D in the same display. Like, oof. And then the Mars viewer where you could compare Mars and drop in another map of the Grand Canyon into the Mars landscape. And you're just like,
Yeah, they had to build a whole new coordinate system in order just to map that space and to have that reference to be able to drop those in. Yeah, this would be a great educational tool for sure. Yeah. Yeah, Jeremy had fun. Jeremy and his team showed off a lot of fun applications there. And then the whole gaming engine stuff, that was kind of neat to see where Esri is going to support the gaming world, the gaming engine world, through the ArcGIS maps, SDKs, and things like that to help support the real time and realistic rendering and visualization of our world and our space. That was kind of neat.
Yeah, and the drone hub and showing off the flight paths of the drones was, just more eye candy for all of us geeking out,
Exactly. We're seeing more of those applications, solutions starting to come out with how to manage the airspace, how to manage drones, how to manage that whole new paradigm out there. And so that was sort of the plan area, right? We all get really excited. They show a lot of really nice applications and solutions, and how Esri's and the developers are using the tech to build out these really nice interfaces and user experiences, and how they're using the technologies themselves. And then there was several sessions. I know you went through some. We had 20 plus folks from GIS Inc. Go and attend, and all of them were kind of sitting in different sessions. You and I captured a few thoughts here. Let's kind of go through some of those. I know, talking about and extending the solution. I know you grabbed some of these slides here.
Yeah, so there's common solutions that can take the form of various architecture. So you can extend ArcGIS in a number of ways. You can embed ArcGIS in a number of ways as well, which is when we start talking about embedding, we can highlight the usage of the platform, which of course that's for the developer user type or the partner user type. And that partner user type they started to utilize to simplify that term of the identity user and that typical ArcGIS Online user. But then there's other embed options that are definitely using the ArcGIS Online and that enterprise approach that is for the partner user only, not the developer user. So I thought that was a really interesting distinction.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the probably the biggest points to kind of that David Cardella kind of highlighted, was that there's sort of two paths here. As those of us that have been in this world for decades, right, and we're still using the same underlying technology and framework to build these things up. But for those that are maybe non-GIS and or looking at different ways to develop applications, there's this whole new ArcGIS platform to give them that option and capabilities, which is really nice. Yeah. So I sat through several. One of them I sat through was this the extended reality, which is really interesting to see where this has evolved over the years from sort of that physical, augmented, mixed reality, virtual reality, and they're sort of starting to overlap each other and blend the user experience and the technology and capabilities, and they're sort of taking this extended reality across these different platforms. And a couple of things I learned was that the positional accuracy is critical when developing these applications, because now you're putting yourself into this world, whether it's augmented, mixed, or virtual. And so how you leverage the sensors and where you put the cameras and things like that. Are they on the device that you're wearing, or the goggles, or are they cameras that are set up out monitoring what you're doing in that space? And so this concept of inside out versus outside in to track your positional accuracy is going to be key. And where we have been looking at doing indoor positioning systems and understanding the accuracy from GPS to the Wi-Fi to RFID to beaconing to ultra wideband, all those technologies really play a role in how you gain that accuracy when you're building with these systems. And that goes into play with the ArcGIS Enterprise system, right? As you start to deploy these applications. I sat through one session that talked about some of the capabilities in the current release, which is 10.8.1. And I think one thing I wanted to kind of share, there's again lots of good content, so make sure you visit the session. But is this ability to migrate content, which has always been a challenge when standing up a new version and moving everything over from the old version to the new version. Now they're starting to put in place some tools and some solutions for taking that content from one enterprise deployment to another. That'll help with all the migration of the content and groups and users and things like that. And also something that I want to make sure that I highlight here is that, Esri's been talking about sunsetting ArcMap, right? That's been out in blogs and posts, and they have this timeline for supporting ArcMap. It's not going away anytime soon. I think it's like 2026 or something like that. But what's interesting is starting in the next cycle, next releases in the 2021 release, 2022, is that the way you can publish maps, right, is going to change. And so up to now, ArcGIS Enterprise has supported sort of two run times. One runtime to support ArcMap publishing, and the other one to support publishing from ArcGIS Pro. Well, there's no plans to support ArcMap at 10.9 or beyond, so they're starting to move out that capability and take away that runtime for publishing. So interesting for us and for customers that are using ArcMap to publish. Start considering that over the next year or two, migrating to ArcGIS Pro to publish, or migrate your ArcMap services to that new platform.
Yeah.
We both,
Yeah,
I think, sat through this, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I sat through a series of architecture-related sessions, and I just really thought that this speaks to me in this, this term ArcGIS Enterprise, and how is it different from ArcGIS Server. And I really thought this slide did a great job highlighting that, there is sort of this evolution of some additional pieces that are part of the ArcGIS Enterprise deployment, that's above, what the typical previous deployment was of ArcGIS Server. And they've actually recently released a new tech paper for best practices in architecting your ArcGIS system. And of course, one of the sessions highlighted pretty much all of the content of this tech paper pretty thoroughly, but this is going to be a great place if you have questions or want to know what to think about with your deployment. So
yeah,
cool.
And Esri typically keeps us up to date based on the release or the release year to help with the new tech or the enhancements or the improvements with the software. So that's always something to keep in your back pocket there. And then there was this whole buzz around ArcGIS Enterprise moving to sort of this containerized architecture using Kubernetes. What did you get out of this presentation?
Well, I think there is a lot of buzz. We had several folks attending it. Lots of questions, lots of thoughts surrounding it. But probably the biggest thing that I got out of it is that we're ready to start diving in and start playing and get up to speed.
Yeah, and so there's definitely a need to understand that kind of space, right, before the whole Kubernetes management and containerization, before you just jump into that world for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and they highlighted some other really cool things just specific to the JavaScript API. So for the developers out there writing more modern JavaScript applications that are utilizing the ES modules approach, utilizing the 4.x API from ArcGIS, it has been hit or miss in the latest release, but the upcoming release, it's going to be coming out of beta, and ES module support should be completely supported. So that's a great thing for us developers to hear. And another thing they showcased, just part of the JavaScript API, was performance improvement. They were able to pull up side by side. Here's the same application running in a year ago's version of the API. So 3 or 4 versions ago, and then the version that's going to be released here this month. And just the speed improvement is just super impressive. The way that they're streaming features in now, and the way the hosted feature services even support these improvements is pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I think Jeremy was actually showing this demo, wasn't he?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, yeah, that was fun.
So, and then the design system, we've been hearing some talk about this for a while, and the design system's been around for a while. Now they're officially incorporating it with the, I believe April 22nd is when this is going to be officially released on the developer site. So there'll be a whole new set of documentation incorporated into the developer site, specific for just using this new design system. And it's pretty fancy with, the ability to create buttons and have light themes and dark themes and change colors, and it's just kind of mind-blowing, all the just fancy styling that you can do. But one of the things that I think is really interesting is that in this documentation, they're highlighting best practices. And every component that you implement, or whether or not you're talking about a theme or talking about text or fonts, it's all highlighting sort of a consistent set of information about each of these elements, and showcasing those best practices. So.
Cool. I know I saw a lot of chatter internally when folks were sitting in on this session, kind of looking at that whole process.
Yeah, yeah. And then, of course, because of some of these enhancements and the JavaScript API enhancements in the design system, we're seeing a look of the new map viewer, which of course is utilizing the design system and taking advantage of all of these new performance improvements. Blending is a new feature of the map, just from a rendering perspective, that allows you to take the symbology of a particular layer and blend it with symbology or attributes of another layer. So in this case, we can see the base map sort of showing through, and this is not the same thing as transparency. This is more of the kinds of blending that you might see in more of a classic image editor like Photoshop, as an example. You can do blending in Photoshop with different layer elements, and you can do the same thing here in a map viewer, so that's pretty cool. Lots of different ways.
And didn't they kind of highlight with that new sketching capabilities to allow to have some more advanced sort of Adobe-like, on-screen drawing and enhancements there?
Definitely. They showcased a new charting capability, which is really interesting. The charts are actually saved with the web map. I'm really excited to see where this is going to go, because at the moment, the only place that you can utilize these charts is in the map viewer. But stay tuned, because these charts are going to eventually be available for usage. Once you've defined it in your web map, you can utilize them in other consuming applications.
And I didn't sit to this one, so maybe define those in maybe like Experience Builder, bring the map out in one element, the chart out in another element, and things like that.
Correct. But at the moment, that's not there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you mentioned the sketch features, which had all sorts of cool things about sketching, snapping, and different symbols and styles. One thing that I thought was particularly interesting was that you could use this sketch layer and create a really cool printable map. That's a wall-worthy printable map, just from sketching. So
yeah. When I was watching this, it reminded me of, and maybe this is where sort of that evolution came in, so the Community Maps program has the Community Maps Editor tool, which had some really rich user experience tools for adding that common area based maps with roads and trees and parks and things like that. And I saw a lot of that sort of user experience in this process. So it's nice to see those two kind of coming together there.
Yeah, and of course, once it's officially released, you'll be able to set it up in your organization or under your user profile, which one you want to use by default, the new viewer or the classic.
Yeah, and that's something to note here, because I know that there's still some nuances with the classic way of doing things and the new map, and so those kind of run together for a while until the adoption rate moves over and the capabilities and functionality are all kind of merged into the new viewer.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and even what I'm seeing, Survey 123 has the ability now to add some custom JavaScript functions, which is, is fantastic. It's just such an easy way to start customizing. And I think we're starting to see a trend, with the arcade data functions. We're seeing, here we've got custom survey 1, 2, 3. I'm sure tomorrow we'll be probably talking a little bit about some of the experience builder. We're just seeing so many ways that we can customize without having to write code, but yet have almost that level of granularity that you can do with customizing.
Right, yeah, I thought this was pretty impressive too. It gets more ways to extend, and talk about extending. I sat through this deep dive into deep learning at one of the last sessions of the day, and I thought there was the amount of effort that Esri's putting into creating solutions and tools and creating these ready-to-use models, extending the APIs to help support these. I thought that was really impressive. Saw some nice tools, and a lot of these tools and models they're making available on the Living Atlas. You can just go to Living Atlas, you can search for a tool. I think there was one called Building Extraction. Download that to ArcGIS Pro, run it, and then you can build out a polygon layer that represents all your buildings. But one that I thought was really cool, the way the presenter kind of highlighted this is sort of like, in the movies type of thing. I'm thinking of CSI here, where I get an image and then I want to make that as clear as possible. But the raw image is on the left, but they use these modeling and these tools that's called super resolution that you can get and improve that image quality and resolution and interpolation. It was just so impressive there to see some of these models. So the whole AI, machine learning, and these capabilities of models are just going to be more pervasive throughout the platform, which I thought was really, really interesting. And that kind of took us to day one. So we had a nice plenary, lots of good sessions out there. Day one, chock full of some really good stuff. So that's what we got for today, and look for some updates for tomorrow. Kelly, any last words there?
No,
got the
sunglasses
sunglasses
about to go outside.
All right, have a good night, and
I'm looking at the mountains.
we'll talk again tomorrow.